This is Michael Popok, Legal AF. I didn't think Donald Trump's misogyny could stoop any lower, and his continued habit of hiring weak women to defend him and have on his arm like arm candy and being beaten regularly by strong women as prosecutors, attorney generals, and lawyers like Roberta Kaplan, the lawyer for E Jean Carroll. Here's the latest disgusting example. Roberta Kaplan, Robbie, on a recent podcast with George Conway, told him that during the deposition that she took of Donald Trump in the E Jean Carroll case in Marl Lago, he called her the C word. Nope, I'm not making it up. Robbie Kaplan says, at some point, Donald Trump, like a disgusting teenager, said to her at the end of the deposition, "See you next Tuesday," which confused Robbie Kaplan because she couldn't believe that the former president of the United States was calling her the C word. And she thought to herself at that time, as she said in the podcast episode, she said, I was confused because I wasn't going to see him until next Wednesday, until her staffers and her colleagues in the car said, Robbie, he called you the C word. I mean, it's hard for me to even get this out. Now, look, there's a great profile in the New York Times and in the Washington Post about Robbie Kaplan. We've had her on the show. I'm going to show you a clip of when she was on. We happened to have her on. We were going to talk about E Jean Carroll on Legal AF. Instead, we talked about the Dobbs decision, ripping away a woman's right to choose. Robbie, having been so successful in defense of marriage and same-sex marriage, as she argued it at the United States Supreme Court 10 or 15 years ago, we had her on to talk about E Jean Carroll, but the news cycle sort of took advantage of us, and the Dobbs decision got leaked, the Alito draft, and we had to, of course, talk about that. But Robbie's a powerhouse. Robbie had been a corporate litigator for a lot of her life. She's probably one of the short list of go-to litigators, bet the company type litigation, usually on the defense side. But her firm, and I know that firm well, and I know people who are named partners at that firm well in New York, also has, I would say, about half of its portfolio dedicated to public interest law, whether they make money or not, taking on interests that are important. Robbie has represented the victims in West Virginia, in Charlottesville, of the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers march that led to deaths. She's also gotten judgments against them and has collected. She has sued Donald Trump, not just in the E Jean Carroll case, but in several other cases that are currently pending, including related to civil fraud that the family has committed. And now she's taken $83.5 million plus running interest on the most recent case involving E Jean Carroll, defamation, rape, and punitive damages, and $5.2 million in May, and she's not done. But the takeaway from this sort of just my heart sank when I heard Robbie tell George Conway that she was called the C word by Donald Trump. Now, she said more in that interview. She said that Donald Trump first pitched a fit and yelled and screamed at Alina Habba over lunch. Yes, you heard that right. Somebody who used to occupy the most exalted position in politics in the land, in the world, right? Who was the leader of the free world, threw a fit because Alina Habba graciously and professionally, as we all do in that scenario, made sure that Robbie Kaplan and her team at Marl Lago had lunch. Marl Lago, for those that don't know, is located on a barrier island in Palm Beach. It's its own building. There's not a lot to eat around it. Sure, you can take a drive down County Line Road in Palm Beach and pick up lunch somewhere, but that place is for the rich and famous. There's not a lot of places to grab a bite. When I lived in that area, I used to go to Green's Pharmacy, which had a luncheonette in it, and they used to joke that the blue blood and the blue collar used to meet there regularly for lunch. So there's not a lot of places to eat lunch. My point is when he said, almost in a threatening and menacing way, Trump to Robbie Kaplan, well, you're at Marl Lago. I wonder where you're going to get lunch. And she said, well, your lawyer has graciously agreed to provide us lunch. He, according to Robbie, took a giant pile of exhibits and documents that were put in front of him as the witness, as the deponent, and threw them aside and pushed them aside and toppled them over and stormed out and could be heard yelling at Alina Habba. Is there any wonder now why there's reporting that Alina Habba her stock has plummeted, right? Fallen like a stone, and there's a chance that she's going to be replaced. She should be replaced. Not that he would have won the E Jean Carroll case, because it was only about damages and he had defamed her and he was disgusting about it and was insulting to the jury and to the judge and to Robbie Kaplan during the trial. There's a misogyny strain here that gets exhibited. Melania is reported to be the cause, apparently, of Donald Trump this time showing up at the E Jean Carroll case and fighting so hard to try to change the jury's mind. But all he did was disgust the jury and make them increase the amount, because they liked Robbie Kaplan, found her to be authentic, honest, and true as an advocate. Of course, they sided with E Jean Carroll, but when Donald Trump gets up in the middle of Robbie Kaplan's closing argument, the woman that he called the C word during the deposition, and now we know the background. Now we know the context of all this. Goes way back here. And he gets up and buttons up his jacket and long red tie with Boris Epshteyn trailing behind him until the judge said, "Sit down, Mr. Epshteyn. You're a lawyer. Sit down." Donald Trump can leave the room. You're not leaving the room. And insulted the jury by extension and insulted Robbie Kaplan. Now we know why. We see the context. Donald Trump likes to have weak women defending him in a courtroom, like Alina Habba, and strong women are beating him regularly. Letitia James, New York Attorney General, about to pick up a $500 million disgorgement judgment from Judge Engoron sometime in mid-February. Fonnie T. Willis, forget what who she's dating. Her indictment is solid. The prosecution is strong. The judge is sober. And Donald Trump is going to be ultimately convicted in Georgia by a strong, powerful black woman prosecutor. And the list goes on, including judges like Judge Chutkin, who's Jamaican-American down in the District of Columbia. And look at the team that Donald Trump has. Look how he approaches women. Did you know that your temperature at night can have one of the greatest impacts on your sleep quality? If you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Inspired by NASA, Miracle Made uses silver-infused fabrics and makes temperature-regulating bedding so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. Using silver-infused fabrics originally inspired by NASA, Miracle Made sheets are thermoregulating and designed to keep you at the perfect temperature all night long, so you get better sleep every night. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresher 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. Miracle sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands, and feel as nice, if not nicer, than bed sheets used by some 5-star hotels. Stop sleeping on bacteria. Bacteria can clog your pores, causing breakouts and acne. Sleep clean with Miracle. Go to trymiracle.com/legalaf to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo LegalAF at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. And if you're not 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/legalaf and use the code LegalAF to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40%. Again, that's trymiracle.com/legalaf to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. So the rumor is that Melania made him show up in court and defend himself and attack mercilessly, relentlessly to try to snuff out E Jean Carroll and stub her out like a cigarette in front of the jury. And the jury said to Robbie Kaplan and her client, "We don't think that she should get $27 million, which is what you're asking for. We think she should get $83.5 million." But you see now the strain, right, of anti-woman going on there. So we're going to continue to follow all of this reporting about Robbie Kaplan. I'm going to show you a clip right now of Robbie on the show with Karen Friedman, Ignifilo, and I, way back when the Dobbs decision draft was leaked. Let's take a look.
Here, however, something very different has happened. By leaking the draft the way it has been leaked, just as a matter, I'm no legal genius here. I'm just talking about human nature. It makes it very hard, I think, for anything to change very much. And that may have been, no one knows, but that may have been the motive on the part of whoever leaked it.
Right. If the leaker, pardon me.
So
Robbie,
interesting. You're saying it could be a conservative person.
Sorry, Karen. Yeah. If the leaker is a conservative, not a junior clerk for like Kagan, but a conservative who wanted to lock in the votes, then you're right. It's now gone from wet cement to very hardening cement right before our eyes.
Yeah, because they don't want to look political.
It doesn't even need to necessarily be the votes. It's the language.
Mm-hmm.
This is a maximalist, radical opinion written in the phraseology of legal conservatives, but it is a radical step. He basically is wiping away 50 years of constitutional precedent that women have relied on in this country for many, many years, that the justices in 1992 did not think could be wiped away, including conservative justices, Justice O'Connor and Justice Kennedy. But he is calling into question a whole line of constitutional jurisprudence that gives Americans the right to use birth control, that gives whites the right to marry blacks, that gives gay people the right to have sex in the privacy of their homes, and that ultimately led to marriage equality. So
Robbie, stop right there for a minute.
Sure.
And why is that? That's because the framers, it's not part of the constitutional history going back to the 1800s, all of those things that you just identified under Alito's analysis?
Taken at its highest level, yes. What it says in this draft is this concept of substantive due process, which is what it's called by lawyers, but it means certain rights that are inalienable in human beings about how they conduct their personal affairs are not, since they are not specified anywhere in the Constitution, there is no constitutional right to them.
Yeah, that is the scariest part when you're looking at some of the takeaways, key passages of the opinion, which we've all scrambled to read, not just for this podcast, but just in life. When you see that the reason that he so cavalierly, with his textualist approach, got rid of that settled law is he said the right to abortion is not deeply rooted in our nation's history and traditions. Whatever happened when you and I, all three of us, were in law school about the Constitution being a living, breathing document whose evolving social mores are supposed to be read onto it by the justices sitting? That's gone. It's just, if you got the numbers, you just take away rights. That's where we're at now.
Well, especially because when they wrote the Bill of Rights, they used deliberately vague language.
Right.
As well as the 13th, 14th, and the 15th Amendment.
Right. It's not a code. It's not a code book. Right.
Exactly.
Right. Which is why it's been interpreted over the years to apply to things like search warrants for cell phones. Those didn't exist at the time. I mean, there's plenty of things that aren't listed in the Constitution where the Constitution has been applied to. And it's interesting where in this particular instance, as you said, just because it's not written in there, they're saying, therefore, it doesn't apply. And of course, everybody says, well, what's next? What's coming next? And there was a one sentence towards the end, don't worry, we only apply this to the special circumstance of abortion. This doesn't apply to anything else. But I found that to be cold comfort. I did not buy that one bit, given.
I was just reading that. That's at page, hold on, 32.
Right.
So you're right. He does do that. But the problem is before that, in page after page after page,
exactly,
he eviscerates the legal underpinnings that led to all those other decisions.
We're going to get her back on the show. I've reached out to Robbie Kaplan to ask her to come on our podcast and address our audience and talk to our audience. I think you guys are going to find her to be thrilling, and we'll work hard to make sure that happens. So we'll continue to do what we do best on Legal AF, lawyers who know what they're talking about at the intersection of law, politics, and justice on the MeidasTouch Network, 2 million strong. We do it on a podcast we like to call Legal AF, and the title is exactly what you think. No bones about it. Every Wednesday with Karen Friedman, Nick Nifolo, and me. Saturday and Ben Mysalis and me. And then on Hot Takes, so that we're not stale. We're au courant. We're on the moment. We're at the market every day, every hour on the MeidasTouch Network. So until my next Hot Take, and if you like this one, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment. Really does help with the algorithms and ratings, keeps us on the air. Until my next Hot Take, my next Legal AF on the MeidasTouch Network, this is Michael Popok reporting.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.